How far would Donald Trump go to protect America from ISIS? Pretty far, not surprisingly. And if you are a Muslim living in America and you've had a couple of weeks off from being scared for your life due to the things he said in his speeches, prepare to be scared again in this clip.
UK, in Britain, they've obviously got a terror problem. They've got a lot of youngsters going over to fight for ISIS. About just under 1,000 are going over there. And they've got a whole new series of proposals to deal with this, including withdrawal of passports from some of these people who've gone overseas to fight.
Absolutely good.
And closing some mosques. Would you do the same thing in America?
I would do that. Absolutely. I think it's great. I know they have a lot of proposals over there. If you go out, you go fight for ISIS.
Can you do it?
You can't come back. Why can't you do it? You can do it here.
Can you close a mosque? I mean, we do have
Well, I don't know.
freedom.
I mean, I haven't heard about the closing of the mosque. It depends. If the mosque is, loaded for bear, I don't know. You're going to have to certainly look at it.
I love there that he used the expression loaded for bear, which is a term you use for a gun. A mosque is not a gun, surprisingly. It's not actually a weapon for hunting or self-defense. It's a religious building. It's a place where people get together to worship, like a church or the religious houses for other religions.
Reach into how his mindset works and how his campaign and his interviews work. He goes on these interviews with major networks, with major people all the time, every day, 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And someone asked him straightforward, so about this British plan, about how they're going to shut down mosques and revoke passports to people who may go off and join ISIS. All he heard was revoke passports. Oh yeah, totally, definitely, yeah, I'll totally do that. He never heard anything about the shutting down the mosque, I believe, in that whole thing. That's why he said, do you think you can do that? Of course, why not? And he said, what about the mosques part? Oh, I haven't heard about the mosque part.
Yeah.
You just hear the question or are you just talking? Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine going on interviews and not listening to the question before I just say something knee-jerk because it doesn't matter what I say. Because this process hasn't had anything to do with what he says. It's how loud he says it and how boisterous and definite he says things.
Yeah.
He didn't even hear the question, but he's just answered like, yeah, shut down mosques. Oh yeah, by the way, what about whether or not we can do that here? Oh, I mean, are they guns? Sure, yeah, we can do that too.
Yeah. Is that legal? Is that constitutional? I don't know. I'll probably do it anyway.
You can just say it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, when we were watching that clip before the show, I pointed out that this is what he does. He says, yeah, I'd do it. It'd be great. There's a lot of proposals. So he's implying there that there's a lot of things being discussed. I'm familiar with all of them. I'm not going to get into the details, but there's a lot of them. I think they're all great. Everybody thinks they're great. Oh, what about this particular one? I don't know anything about that. And I'll look into it. That's what he says. He implies knowledge. Then when tested on the knowledge, he backs up like a scared little child and says, oh, someday I'll learn about that. Well, we have no reason to believe that based on your previous experience in this campaign.
At the appropriate time. I mean, it's just extreme. I mean, aside from all the chuckling about it, which, just want to, it's really troubling because, I think on one of the, maybe it was on the show last time I was on, we were talking about the rhetoric that he's using and the extent to which it does, without being so overly dramatic, the analogy, it's analogous to Nazi Germany. And in terms of that vitriol that comes out and that marginalization, and it can only lead down one path. It can only lead to bad things. The whole revocation of the passports in the United Kingdom was something that was a highly controversial piece of legislation. To leave an individual without statehood is essentially against some fairly fundamental human rights.
Yes.
The legality of it, I do not believe that the legality of it has been tested. I believe that the legislation was passed.
In the UK,
it has not been tested in the United Kingdom. I believe that the legality of it here would fly even less than it does in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is one of the few Western countries that can actually revoke someone's passport. If they have a second country to fall back on, so if they have a second nation, then it's easier, but even so. But in the instances where you don't, where you just have one passport, one nationality, the legality behind it is extremely questionable. It was highly controversial at the time, irrespective. I mean, they're not wrong. There are about 1,000 individuals who have been radicalized, who've gone over. And of course, they're not worried so much as what they're doing over there. They're more worried about what they're coming back, what they're going to do when they come back. So that's a legitimate concern. But shutting down mosques and marginalizing the Muslim community to the extent that he is advocating is just, as I said, it's what happened to the Jews in Germany in the 30s. I mean, I don't think I'm being overly dramatic when I say that.
It's difficult to be dramatic when he is being incredibly dramatic. I mean, we don't even need to speculate about where it could end because at a rally a couple of months ago, he responded to a guy who said we need to get rid of them all, and he said, yeah, we might have to do that. Like, drive out a religious group from our country. And like you say, it's very reminiscent of Germany in that period. It's the idea that we have some legitimate enemies who associate with this faith, so they are all suspect. You're scared of them, and you should be scared of them. You should be suspicious of them. We're going to look into them, and we're going to get rid of them. It doesn't matter if I'm going to uselessly give the analogy. If some crazy Christian right-wingers go to a church, we don't shut down the church after they blow up a government building. That's not how the country works.
And all churches nearby.
Yeah. Instead, what we do is we do illegal surveillance on every church and mosque in the country. That's what we do for decades, and then eventually you find out and you call the person who told you a traitor. That's what we do in America.
But it's scapegoating of the most in the most dangerous fashion. I mean,
Yes.
the far right is doing it across Europe. And they're doing it again with the Muslim community, with the Jewish community. It goes kind of hand in hand. And I'm not necessarily singling out the Jews as a sort of for special treatment or special status, but that's where it begins. That is the tip of the iceberg. Because then, at what level does it then get to the point where everybody, at the whim of anybody, is people with ginger hair, they're the scapegoat then because of whatever it is, and it becomes so arbitrary. And it's just so dangerous. And I do lay the blame at him, because previously I was more of the opinion, well, he is just articulating a viewpoint. But no, it's more than that. He has a responsibility, because he has such a prominent position now, because he is a blowhard, we know that, and he is all of the things that we know. But he has a responsibility, and I think he's a lightning rod for this. I didn't think that initially. I just thought he was reflecting what people sort of thought, and I thought, but I'm beyond that now.
He's like a catalyst. He's enhancing it.
He is enhancing it, and he doesn't. And to your point, when people at his rallies say outrageous, erroneous, extremely unpleasant, unpalatable things, he doesn't correct them.
No.
And he just says, "Well, my
them.
supporters are passionate." When that guy recently spat in the face of the protest,
The immigration activist.
"Fuck off home." Where's the statement saying this is outrageous, this is not, that I love the passion, but you've got to direct it in the right way? He says there's nothing. And when they say other things, when those two guys got beaten up in Boston, they go, and he's like, well, I have passionate supporters. That is totally...
The KKK was passionate.
It's just, it gets to the point, and the reason I'm getting so wound up about it is because it gets to the point when it gets dangerous. It's not a joke anymore.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It's not just about ratings. This is highly troubling. He is steering the debate, whether we like it or not, and he is galvanizing a group of people who have very unpleasant views.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that you're right to be angry. It is extremely frustrating. Like, foreign terrorism, domestic terrorism, that should be a concern. I think that it's absurd to have it be the number one thing that you talk about in a presidential election, because I think there are far more pressing, real concerns that everyday Americans should be dealing with. And first of all, there's the fact that the people he'd be shutting down these mosques for, they're largely American citizens who have freedom of religion. For some reason, they don't seem too concerned about the Constitution when it comes to that, when it's not Christianity. But also, to say that they're all suspect, to imply that they're all dangerous and that you can't trust them and that we need to get rid of them, it not only hurts them, but even if you're just being selfish and pragmatic, it hurts us too. The guy who tried to blow up the van in Times Square, that was foiled by someone who called it and reported it. That guy was a Muslim who lived in New York City. Muslims who have been in mosques and have reported on suspicious behavior has stopped mass shootings in the past. Like, these people, they love to say, oh, why don't they all denounce and reject the terrorism, regardless of the fact that they do constantly. But they work with us because they don't want violence in America either. And when you say that they're all dangerous and they're all villains, you make it impossible for them to want to work with us.
The only solution to this, and it is the boring one, I'm afraid, and it is inclusion, and it is a systematic, intelligent process of inclusion and collaboration and mutual understanding, and all of those fluffy words that people get to tune out because it's not glamorous, it doesn't make headlines. It is not shut down mosques, run them all out. That's a dramatic, and it doesn't get you anywhere. Take their passports, and it just entrenches the problem. What are you going to do? You don't think you're going to radicalize and piss off a bunch more people who are just kind of like trying to get on with their lives, but they're going to be angry now, and they're going to identify, so you're going to just perpetuate the problem that you're supposedly seeking to address. But that's the glamorous aspect to it, and it sounds cool, and it sounds like you're really making progress when you do these things. But unfortunately, the only real solution to ISIS is going to come from the Muslim community themselves and from Muslims worldwide, and we have to understand that. Blowing them up isn't going to do it. It is, and unfortunately, that is a boring, long process.
I agree.
And that's the thing.
I mean, I disagree that it's boring. But I agree that that is the
but
process.
you know what I mean. No, but from
the point of
a
view, yes.
grandstanding
Yeah,
point of
because-
view,
Yeah.
hands on hips, whatever you want to be, it is boring because it's work.
Yeah,
It's not something you can do with a stroke of a pen.
And a simple
Exactly.
question of how is never asked in these interviews. That's which is why even when Donald Trump was talking about the Democratic debate, he goes, "Oh, boring debate," because too many things are being explained. So
Yes.
we're too busy.
Right.
a lot of proposals.
Yeah, we
It was
we
actually
like
some substance.
We like the what are you gonna do? Get rid of passports. Kick these guys out.
Yeah,
Close
build a
those
wall.
down. Watch them. Even watching mosques or shutting down mosques if they're loaded to bear. The next question: how? What do you plan on doing? Do you want the government to put together a system where we watch Muslim mosques and that's it? Is that what you want? How does that work? How do you implement it? How do you fund it? How do you do this? Nothing is never asked how because then it gets boring. Oh, who wants the boring details of actually taking away someone's passport? Well, first off, proving that that's what they're doing, because you have to do that too. Because as you said, you can look at a person and go, looks Muslim, let's take passports away.
Yeah.
You know, what does that look like? We have our preconceived ideas that are a lot of times very ignorant. There's no real system for this. That's too much trouble, too much work.
Yeah, it's fun to listen to a carnival barker, but the details, that's governing, and that's something that these people are not interested in, unfortunately.